We know that no one ever seizes power with the intention of relinquishing it. So wrote George Orwell in 1984. Not the year 1984, but the book 1984. The year, of course, is 2025. And, well, what he wrote has stood the test of time, and then some. In case you haven't guessed already, I'm talking about Keir Starmer, and his rejig. He wants a rejig, apparently. He's not the only one. Let's look at what the headlines are saying. This from the BBC. Why Starmer wants number 10 rejig after a year in power. Well, there's quite a lot to unpack in this story, and I really thought, although I haven't talked about him for quite some time, or indeed Labour, we really needed to circle back and look at what Keir and his bunch of merry people are doing. Here's some footage of behind the scenes from the Labour, well, closed meeting recently. Ouch. That guy's good. I think he had centre of gravity on his side. Full transparency, that wasn't a behind-the-scenes meeting of Keir and his team, the cabinet, or anything else like that. It was, in fact, as we'll see here, it was the Mexican Senate. And what was going on was there was a tense debate, and it was Senator... Now, is that I think that's probably Alessandro Moreno. Don't want to get that wrong now, do I? Of the opposition Institutional Revolutionary Party, grabbed the president of the Senate, Gerardo Fernandez Noronha, demanding to be allowed to speak. And then the photographer, you would see, got involved. And I think the photographer was hurt. So that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. But what I would say there is at least we saw true emotion, true intention in the Mexican Senate. Are we seeing true intention with Keir? Well, actually, funny enough, I think we are, because the signs are there. So, Reeves, Rachel, from accounts, is sidelined as Starmer hires new economic team in surprise reshuffle. Probably not that much of a surprise to many people at all, but the Independent says it's a surprise, so fair enough. Let's read their headline. What has been going on? Well, with Labour languishing 8 points behind reform in the polls and a sense that Sir Keir is not in control of the political agenda, heaven forfend, he never has been, Darren Jones has been moved to a new role of Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. Darren Jones. Well, we'll come back to him. Keir has brought in world-leading, this is also economist, Manoush Shafiq as the new chief economic advisor, in a move that will allow him to take more control of economic policy. Well, hold on a second, isn't that sort of in Rachel's area? And didn't that guy that was moved work for Rachel? Well, we'll come on to that. As I say, the signs are all here. The shake-up follows growing criticism of Ms. Reeves, who faces a difficult few months ahead amid growing speculation that she is likely to have to announce major tax rises. What a surprise. In the budget. While she is expected to remain in post, her authority and the power of the Treasury, which has been vehemently criticised by Labour backbenchers, will be much diluted. And maybe that's good. But again, who are the replacements and what is their agenda?
That the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not. No, they're not.
No, you have got to take... No, look, I get this is...
North of 90% of them are adult men.
Let me be... No.
So that's Starmer. Now, whether you agree with him or not, and a lot of people don't, some people do, of course, this could be problematic because he doesn't seem to have read the room. Therefore, we should look here just to highlight how much of a hot topic that actually is. This is Elon Musk, and let me read this in case you're listening audio only. A government that puts foreigners above their own people is by definition treasonous and illegitimate. Don't sit on the fence. Mr. Musk, what do you actually mean? Elon, not known for his shyness. The people of Britain deserve a government that represents their interests, not those of shadowy foreign organisations. Let's look at what he's referring to. Obviously, from the caption, we can see that this looks like an interview on Sky News with Bridget. So, what has she been saying?
In Epping Forest, would you at least acknowledge that that is what they will hear? And it's up to you. Ministers can say we agree with that or we don't agree with it. You can't simply say let's balance things. Do you agree with what your lawyers said or don't you?
Yes.
From the Daily Mail, a top Tory minister. Are any of them top? Oh, you mean in terms of the structure, right? Okay, not in terms of talent, and it would seem with a lot of them integrity either, but we'll come on to integrity in a little while. Has stood by the move to keep a controversial migrant hotel open amid fears axing it would have sparked disruption. Maybe not axing it would spark disruption, but anyway, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson insisted the Home Office was right to argue the rights of asylum seekers trumped those of local residents in Epping, Essex. Now, again, that's from the Daily Mail, as I've described, and that is how they frame it. But it does seem to be the message that people are picking up on. That's what it looks like she's saying, and she's agreeing with the lawyers. One could argue on her behalf, maybe it's because she's got to agree with the lawyers. She's in a difficult position. But do you get that impression from this government? Do you think that they actually are interested in the local residents, not just in Epping, but within the country? I've talked about this before. Many of us seem and are extremely disenfranchised. And Keir, in this desperate attempt to hold on to power, as described by Orwell, is thrashing around, doing whatever he can to hold on to that power. The flip-flopping that we saw from a couple of months back when he was a sort of cut-price Farage was embarrassing, to say the least. For all the innovation, these latest moves are, I believe this is BBC, by the way, not Daily Mail, are also partly about establishing more conventional and clearer structures. Okay, fair enough. This morning there were 2 directors of communications and 4 people who could claim in some sense to be head of policy. Now there is 1 of each. So fine, right? Oh, that does sound ridiculously complicated. Reaching for the sort of football analogy the Prime Minister might enjoy. Oh, dear, yeah, of course, because he's one of the lads. One government insider said to me, number 10 has been like Sven, Goran Eriksson's England team. Lots of midfield talent who couldn't play together. I would disagree with that because it says lots of midfield talent. I'm not sure there is that much talent at all. And on top of that, they can't play together. The significant thing about these changes is the ruthlessness. What a surprise. This is a well-worn theme of Starmer's leadership, isn't it? And his rise to that leadership and his continuing hold on that leadership. But he is willing to demote, sideline or dispense with people who have served him very closely. A man of honour then, rewarding those who have protected him, who have served him. And that's why people love him so much. That's one of the reasons. On the other hand, some of those being sidelined today were appointed not long ago at all by Starmer himself. So, to some of his Labour critics, ruthlessness is just a nice way of saying he is correcting his own errors. So there's no accountability. There's no sense of Keir saying, yeah, I really screwed up there and that was a problem and I'm learning. And he is. All this crowd are learning as they go along, aren't they? This is their bring your kid to work scheme. That's what we've got. We've got all these children who have been put in place by dint of the despair that the nation was in after the several years of the Tories, and that default puts them in place, and they've not had a clue. They're still clueless. They're scrabbling around. And so ruthless, beyond ruthless, Keir is saying, it wasn't to do me. Let me just shuffle this around, and I don't care how well you serve me. I'm putting this person in. Oh, by the way, if that's you, if you've recently been involved in that reshuffle, that reboot, whatever you want to call it, I don't get too settled. I suspect would be a good mantra to say every morning. Let's then listen in here. The Telegraph. They're going to explain a little bit more about this this reset.
Yes. Well, okay. The context of all of this is we are looking ahead to a budget that's probably going to be even worse than the last one. So it's all about setting us up for that. But what has he actually done in this mini reshuffle, which some backbenchers were expecting to be a proper reshuffle and are a bit disappointed about? Instead, it's very much an insider staffing one. The key thing is that Darren Jones, the former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, has been moved to a new role as Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, focused on the delivery of the government's policy agenda, which will require an awkward conversation because he's now going to have to sit down with Starmer and say, what is the policy agenda? Those who are asking, so who was the previous Chief Secretary to the...
I wasn't going to pause it at that point, but it is too delicious not to, because that's very funny. What is the actual plan, Keir? Do you have one? Not really. Hang on to power? All right, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Let me let them continue.
Prime Minister may well do so because it has never existed before.
Oh, it's a made-up role.
It's a new role.
It's a delivery role.
It's a delivery role.
Minister for Delivery.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with the person that deals with the post office at whatever
Again, no, that's not funny. That's worse than my jokes.
department that is. What's interesting about this is that Rachel Reeves is briefing that she was fully behind this move.
Of course she was, yes.
But I think we can safely conclude that having her deputy, and actually the only sort of competent voice in the Treasury, be taken from her at number 11 and installed at number 10 is a slight.
Yes.
Yes, of course it's a slight. And again, let's highlight that he seems to be the only competent one.
Comes after Crygate. She's
Yes.
been in tears in the Commons. We know there are internal rows going on, rumours of rows with the Prime Minister, rumours of rows with Angela Rayner, the Deputy, who, by the way, we'll get on to 3.
And what she's starting to say there is we'll get on to, I think she calls it very cruel, Three Houses Rayner or something like that. But that's unfair because she's working class, so that couldn't be the case. That's why she could go off to Ibiza after she was appointed deputy, because she's working class. Pathetic. That's a slight on the working class, by the way, Ange. And don't think you are. Anyway, so let's go here to Times Radio, because we do need to. We've talked about Keir. We've talked about this new appointment, who was up until that point Rachel's right-hand person. We've talked about Rachel. We need to also remind ourselves that Bridget has had a few words to say. So the top team, I mean, the sort of superhero group are all there. But, of course, we haven't really discussed Angela. And I thought that this snippet from Andrew Neil was very concise and very accurate. Let's see if you agree.
Well, I think it's run for quite a long while because her housing affairs seem to be more complicated than the Duke of Westminster's. And he's got hundreds of properties. She's only got 2, or is it 3? It's quite hard to know. And I think it's run a long while because the explanations we're given don't stack up very well. I mean, where is her main residence? We had thought that was in her constituency in the Greater Manchester area, but we're then told that she sold that or put her share of that into a trust. Well, that means that she doesn't then have a home in her constituency, which would seem a bit bizarre for a working MP. We're told she's bought this place in Hove, next to Brighton, because she wanted somewhere nearer than London than her constituency. But she's got a place in London. She's got a grace and favour, rather smart Grace and Favour apartment in the heart of Westminster in Admiralty House. So why does she need something closer to London? And then you think, of course, Hove is 80 miles from London, so it's not exactly that close. And what now is her main residence? Is it Hove? Because there would be maybe some tax advantages to making it that. It wouldn't be a second home. Or is it Admiralty House? Was it Manchester? I mean, this has gone on, as you know, you've been covering it all the time. And yet, these are quite simple questions to which we, the British people, have a right to know the answer, and we don't. And so that's why the story's got legs, as we say in the business, because every explanation doesn't stack up, more and more facts come out, and the whiff of hypocrisy. I mean, having a second home, nobody would normally care except in opposition. She made great stock of why do people have second homes. You're denying people who don't even have one home a home, and now we see.
Yeah, and now she doesn't want anyone to talk about it, or she's saying, I think she's going to release more information going forward, but didn't she realise that wouldn't be a good look, and didn't she realise that the government isn't looking good in the eyes of most of the general public right now, and indeed from pretty much when they got in power, and you look at them as a shower, and what Andrew Neil said at the end, I think is really significant. I think it's really important about how when she was in opposition, Angela was, like all of them, was doing the caterwauling and the calling out and the Tories and the elite and all the rest of it, whatever they were saying. Again, the free gifts. And lo and behold, what have they done? We started with the free gifts, we then had the pensioners, then it was the WASPy women, then it was the farmers. It goes on, and people talk about the Mauritius deal. They've been on a roll. I mean, they've been spectacular in the sense that they've been so out of touch